Hey guys, GeoScanner here, bringing you the conversation no one's talking about from Season 8, Episode 4 of Game of Thrones. This is your one chance. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Season 8 of Game of Thrones, don't watch this because just go watch it and come back because this is just going to have spoilers everywhere. Just don't, okay? I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But if you have, let's keep going. This conversation is between Davos and Tyrion. So let's go ahead and back up a little bit and show kind of what happened up until this point. So Davos and Melisandre have had sort of saying a little bit of history. They kind of are slightly on opposite sides of the spectrum for how they think. This all came to front when Melisandre came back right before the White Walkers attacked. Had a nice little awkward conversation with Davos, who basically wanted to just kill her on the spot. I mean, I don't think he would have, but he wanted to for sure. And she said, don't worry about it, I'm going to die. And he was like, all right, we'll deal with this after. So that kind of is the buildup. And there's a lot of tension. And it's really well done in the end of the episode. I mean, I don't really personally agree with how they did it, but it was kind of dramatic how she walks out and just dies. Boom. Resolution, closure, end of topic, right? Wrong. I believe that's just the start of it, or at least it's the potential or what I'm reading into their writing for this episode as. Because Davos is speaking to Tyrion and he's talking about the Lord of Light and Melisandre, and it's like, why? Why are you bringing this up? Like, that was resolved at the end of last episode. Is he just venting? Is he just saying, like, to a friend, like, hey, man, this sucked. Man, I can't believe we have to deal with it. Lord of Light, he's a piece of trash. What is he doing? Just, like, leaving us? I mean, I don't think that the writers would include something like that if it was just him venting or talking about it. Like, the first time I watched this episode, I didn't think anything of it. It was like, oh, okay, another forgettable scene. Then the second time, I'm like, that's a forgettable scene. Game of Thrones really shouldn't have forgettable scenes. I mean, everything is really tied in with something else. There's another reason behind it. We thought that kind of wrapped up at the end of last episode. So why rehash it at the beginning? And that's why I think this is a really, really key point in foreshadowing. A great writer can show you all the information and have it so that you can't put it all together. And I just hope, please, like, you guys are going to get another video on my thoughts of the writers and where they're steering the ship wrong. They still have plenty of time to correct it, but that's a whole nother video. So this part, we're just talking about when you're writing, you can show them all of the information, you can give them all the details, but you don't want them necessarily, like your common audience, like most of the people, you don't want them figuring it out, but you want them, when they do figure it out, to be like, oh, that's what that meant. You want that moment, but give them just enough. And I hope this is one of those moments where they're just giving us enough to like see, oh, okay. So this is like, we're putting on my tinfoil hat right here because this scene is so cuttable. Like, what? Why? The Lord of Light is kind of like, they're phrasing it as like, the arc is done. They did their purpose. That's why they are bringing him back to life so he can save Arya. Blah 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 blah. Why are we bringing it up again? There has to be a point. There's a point to everything. I mean, the other scenes, Tyrion and Bran has that goes all the way back to the first season when Tyrion presented how the contraption to go on the horse so that Bran could ride a horse. Like that's a huge moment. Those two characters haven't had much conversation, if any. I don't even think, like, barely anything. Tormund kind of is the comic relief here, just to change up the tone, because that's part of filming. You can't just have it all be one tone. You have to change up the tone. So somebody kind of gets dubbed the comedic character, and that's Tormund in a lot of it. And Jaime and Brienne, that's super impactful. That is huge. They've been building that for, again, multiple seasons. It's going to be a big point going forward. I hope, like, that's it. I mean, they're building it up like it's a big deal. Hopefully they don't just close it and be like, he's done with her. I don't think that's the case. And then the crown and the crowd, and then Tormund, again, Like they're building up the whole Daenerys going to the dark side, and like really this descent into madness is essentially what they're building to in this episode. And they lump all those things in with this. So why? Well, if the writers are going to shock everyone and come out with something that's so good, which they have 2 episodes left to really do that, this has to kind of be part of it. They have to build it, because if it just comes out of the blue, it's not going to be satisfying. But if they were hinting at it all along and now it's coming to fruition, that helps kind of build that arc and makes the surprise feel real, because you're like, oh, okay, I see why they did that. And that's what I'm hoping this is building, because Davos is talking about the Lord of Light and his plans. And is he just going to leave now? Is he just going to be like, I'm fucking done with you, bunch of losers, I'm out of here? All I'm here to do is just to stop death from taking over? I don't think so. That can't be. Like, the Lord of Light, like, that just, it just can't. I mean, come on, the prince who was promised, that's arguably like the most impactful prophecy. At least I think it's the most impactful prophecy. And we're pretty sure that's Jon Snow, right? I mean, we can just make that assumption at this point. And he was returned for a reason. It's really the most unresolved part, I believe. He did rally the troops. He did bring everyone together. I mean, he kind of functioned like some glue that just like pasted all the armies to him, and like got some proof, and tried to get Cersei in there, and Cersei was like, sure, and didn't. But, you know, like that can't be it. I mean, I think if that was it, when the Night King raised up all the dead, they would have killed Jon Snow. That would have made sense. That would have been that he was brought there for a reason. He brought all the armies there. He fulfilled his destiny, and that's why he was brought back. Right? But no, like, he's not done. He's not dead. I think when he fulfills his destiny, he's probably going to die, because he's on borrowed time. He's on time that wasn't originally meant for him. It had to take a deity to give him his life back. That's a pretty big deal, and that's not something where you just get to go living happy for the rest of your life. Right? I mean, come on. I feel like other people could have done what Jon did. You know, it wasn't just Jon was the only person who could have done this. It would have happened slower, it would have happened differently, but humans could have resisted and fought against this without Jon. I mean, Jon was a pretty pivotal part, but I mean, come on. This freaking army of undead that's like just infinitely strong just shows up and kills half. They show it on the next. They show it on the same episode later. They take half the pieces off. A lot more than half. But okay, so whatever. But there is a reason he survived. There's a reason he survived when the Night King rose up the undead all around him. If that was his destiny, was to bring the armies there, and that was his destiny to stop the Night King, that would have been the point where he should have died. He should have been slain by the Night King. He should have had a sword fight with the Night King. And I think if he was meant to die at that point, the Night King and him would have had a fight and he would have lost, surrounded by undead. But that's not the reason he was brought back. There is more. There has to be more. This really brings us to the core question of what satisfies the Lord of Light. Why did he bring Jon Snow back? Like, what does he want out of this? It can't just be this because he's still around. Lord Beric Dondarrion was sent there, died multiple times, has decayed as a human being, more so in the books than they show, but they talk about him like basically being one of the undead almost, to the point where he's just a right, just like surviving and walking along, surviving. And he's brought back multiple times by the Lord of Light just so that he can hold the horde back and save Arya. And then he's done. That's the moment. All of it wasn't as impactful. This is his moment. This is what he was brought back for. Hodoor was brought back to hold the door. The characters have a very, very specific reason of why they're at the place when they are. and usually they'll meet their demise or assist other characters. And in this case, Jon, he's basically facing off against death, and he lives again. If the Lord of Light was bringing him back in all poetic justice, Jon Snow would have died. There's something else that is needed of him. One of my ideas is maybe a little bit too literal, but the prince who was promised, I think that's really hinting to the point that Jon Snow will only ever be a prince. And they really painted this episode so that everybody is turning on Dany. And Dany is following suit of the Mad King, kind of going to just this dark place. And Jon is this really good person who's going to this good place, and people are following him and thinking about leaving Dany, and it's really creating a rift between them, kind of showing a little bit of the good and evil. Not quite evil, good and bad. Even though it's not quite there, they're showing those divisions. And I think Jon being the prince who was promised means inherently that he will never be the king, and he never can be the king, because he's the prince who was promised. So, what does that mean? I think potentially it's taking all the good and the hope, and everybody who is believing for a better Westeros is going to be going with Jon Snow, and Dany's going to be left with her old alliances and really just going mad. And that's going to really root out the difference between good and evil, and good is going to lose. I've been saying this from day one. Game of Thrones cannot have a happy ending. It cannot have a happy ending. J.R. Martin built this because he hates fantasy tropes, which, again, another episode. The writers are using fantasy tropes. So that scares me. It scares me a lot. But I still have faith. I've heard these guys talk on talk shows. I think they really are Game of Thrones fans. And I think they're just trying to build up too much stuff. They're trying to do things in a little bit wrong way, but I hope they get the core of this. I think Jon is going to be the prince who was promised, ascending to be king. He's going to somehow die. All of his followers killed. The world is going to be plunged into darkness with Dany going in to be a mad queen. And it is just going to be a black and just unhappy ending. I mean, after this whole conversation that Tyrion has with Davos, he says that now that we've defeated them, we have us to contend with. And immediately the shot goes to Dany sitting next to Snow, and then beside them Sansa, showing kind of maybe there's some alliances forming. Dany's all by herself. And this really does show that division, that it's going to be between them in the final, in the end. It's going to be those two competing. The last episode is going to be those two really just going at it eventually. And this really falls into a lot of theories that are out there, that the Lord of Light is actually basically like the devil. He fronts as being this good, holy symbol, but he's actually out there for bad. And he's bringing Jon Snow back. He's defeating the Night King. He's doing all these things so that the prince who was promised can come back. And most of the good in Westeros can be eliminated in one swell, quick, red wedding style ending that is going to blow everyone's mind. It's going to piss everyone off. Dany's going to be the Mad Queen. And it's just going to, boom, fade to the credits. It's done. Everyone's pissed, outraged. And I think that would be actually a really great ending. I really hope they do something like that. They do something where it pisses everyone off. It's so good for the fantasy genre in general. It's so good to just buck all the tropes. I think it is so good. And I mean, come on. HBO's got to get down on that. Like, having all the hype and the talking about it. It's going to blow up in media. People who have never watched it will be like, whoa, what is going on? Like, that would be groundbreaking. People getting upset over things like one of the dragons dying. What do you think is going to happen if they end the whole thing on the Lord of Light being an evil god, pushing the Mad Queen to bring tyranny to the Seven Realms? Come on. That would be great. And you guys know it too. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos like this as me being a budding author. And really, watching these last couple seasons of Game of Thrones have really made me feel like I need to go and do something with my creativity, because I feel genuinely I could write something better. I mean, they could still end it. They have 2 more episodes, so let's hope it's not, and this is all just talk, and they have it really well done. But I think I could do a really, really good job, and so this is the type of thing I really want to do more often. Please support me. Say hi, and let me know in the comments below. Please, 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 please tell me how stupid my ideas are. Tell me how great they are. Tell me your own ideas. Let's go get these conversations going. And thanks for watching.